my microphone in. Well, lessons from the trenches. We had a little technical difficulty, so here we are ready to roll, and hopefully everybody is tuning in, and we have this also broadcasting on YouTube Live. Thank you for joining us today. Today, our topic is to talk about some of the misconceptions or the myths around market research or customer research. And sometimes we use those terms interchangeably. So we might be doing that today. And sometimes terminology changes and people have different things that they use to describe things. So we've got Steve Zuber and Becky Amble today to talk about these ideas and debunk some myths. So Steve, let's give you just a 30-second quick, what is it that you do? Let's do a little intro of each other and then we'll get started. Steve, I can't hear you.
Okay, now you can hear me, right? Okay,
there. Yeah, sorry. Hopefully my mic is working and yours too.
I was killing some external noise and had myself on mute. Anyway, I work in two areas really: customer research or customer insights, and also brand strategy, helping people build their brands through better understanding their customers.
Okay, and I am Becky Amble, and I work with B2B companies that are looking to increase their revenue and profits, and primarily companies that are 10 to 25 million on up in size, a lot of times manufacturing, medical device, and technology companies. And I also work with smaller companies in a group setting. Anyway, we're going to talk today about some of those myths that have gotten people hung up or misconceptions about market or customer research. Steve's going to talk about the first three ideas here, and then I'll come in. So Steve, why don't you get started with the first one?
Okay, well, the first one is really something that we hear quite a bit of, that, you know, this marketing research thing is just too expensive. And one way to debunk that myth is to think about it differently. So rather than thinking about it as research or what you're doing, think about it as what you're learning, that you're gaining insight into your marketplace, into your customers. And when we talk about insight, we're really talking about deep understanding of your customers or your prospects. So, you know, what is their behavior? What are their thoughts? What are their feelings about your business, about your brand, and also about your competitors? It does allow you to save money in the long run. You know, there is an output of money that's necessary, but you can save money in the long run because you can identify profit opportunities, you know, that might not be really obvious to you by understanding your consumers better. You can minimize risk to your business and avoid costly mistakes. And so there's an importance to thinking about, what do I need to do now to help me in the future? And it doesn't really have to cost a lot. There are efficient ways to do qualitative or quantitative research that, you know, myself or other folks in the industry can help you with if you're working on a limited budget. Another myth is that research is really for large corporations only. And yes, the big companies do spend a lot of money on research. They support research departments, often internally, but you know, small or medium-sized companies can also benefit, and really they need to do research, because they, just like large companies, they, as much as large companies, need to understand or better understand their target customers, their competitors, and the trends in their industry. And, you know, last time we were together, we talked about some examples of things that, you know, if some companies had a better understanding of their target audience, they might have not committed some major faux pas that cost them millions of dollars in sales and a market capitalization. A third one is that marketing research is only for new products. So I've got to do research to see if this new product is going to fly, if this is a good idea, a bad idea. Yes, it is very useful for new products. There is a lot of new product research that is very valuable, but it's also good for understanding the status and how customers feel about your current products or your current services, and also understanding you know, what's going on in the industry. You know, are there other opportunities for growth that you're not hitting on right away? What about your marketing spending? even small companies spend a relatively large amount of their budgets on quote unquote marketing, whether it's, online advertising, whether it's brochures, whether it's trade shows, et cetera. How effective is all that? And that's something that you can understand by doing research into your customers. And also, customer needs and preferences change over time. Are you tracking that? Are you staying up to date on what's happening with your customer or consumer base? There's others as well, but in the interest of time, we'll kind of keep to those major ones. But I think those are 3 of the 5. Becky's going to talk about another couple of them that are really myths that can be debunked about doing research into your customers and your marketplace.
That's
Becky?
terrific. Thank you, Steve. Yes. So another myth or misconception people have is that market research or customer research is only about the numbers. Well, Steve already mentioned quantitative and qualitative research. So numbers are important. And there's a few things that you get out of the statistical analysis, things like market size, growth rates, and trends. That is important. And qualitative data is also extremely important. And that's the part that's comes through in discussion. So you might be using things like customer feedback, you might be doing focus groups, you might be doing interviews. This information is extremely valuable because it can provide insights into the customer behavior, their attitudes and motivations. And frankly, in my work with companies that have been on the small to mid-size, this has been one of the big eye openers for them. And frankly, I always say there's going to be gold in the research when you talk to customers. So it's so important and valuable to do that. Another misconception or myth is that it's too time consuming. Well, it can take time. And frankly, both Steve and I would probably say it's a good idea to have professional help on this. Most of the time, you're going to benefit from having somebody that's got the expertise in doing this because they can do it more effectively, efficiently. They know how to frame questions. They know how to ask questions properly. All of that is so important to get quality research. So even though it takes time, when you're working with a professional, they know how to really zero in. And key things that you want to do are probably identify the right questions to ask, make sure that's done, get the appropriate research method. Are you going to do phoners? Are you going to do roundtable or focus groups? What are you going to do? And then also analyze the data effectively. And as we know from what Steve had shared with us in our first session, we have a pretty good feeling that the research might not have been done. If it was done, they might not have interpreted correctly, and they might not have really interpreted the data correctly. So all these pieces are extremely important. Doesn't mean that it can't be done. And again, this is something that in my experience, even small companies, I've worked with a company that's a 1-person company and has maybe like 5 contractors doing work. And this was one of the things that was the highest value in our entire time together. So because you're small or you think you have budget constraints, things can still be done to get you that golden information, because basically your customers are going to tell you what you need to do to get their business and keep their business. We're going to move into wrapping up here. Steve, any closing thoughts? Because we also wanted to throw out an idea to listeners. We could talk about voice of the customer, which really became more of a I don't know, a term, I guess, and a technology that has really taken more hold in B2B, because B2C was doing this earlier. But we could do a section on that, a 15-minute session on that. We could even do something on customer satisfaction if that's of interest. So please, in your comments or drop us an email and let us know what you'd like to hear. Otherwise, we have another plan to talk about how you can do your own research in our next time together. Steve, any other thoughts you want to share?
Yeah, just a couple of thoughts to add on to the 2 things that you brought up, and with an example. So about it being only about the numbers, I worked with a company we were trying to understand their brand and improve their brand with their customer base. And we did 2 focus group interviews that didn't cost a lot of money. And the incremental learning that they got was incredible, because prior to that, the only quote unquote interaction they had with their customers was in the sales environment. So once we were in a quote unquote research environment, they learned that their customers who like them a lot and spend a fair amount of money with them We're also spending a lot of money with their competitors, which was a little bit of an eye opener. So that helped them adjust their marketing and their product mix, which brought kind of instant profitability. So, sometimes what seems like a lot of money is because you're coming from a zero. Well, we're spending zero on this. Well, now you're going to spend what may seem like a lot, but it's really not. But the incremental learning outweighs the cost. So, okay, so that's just one thing to think about. The other is, in addition to research professionals understanding kind of how to frame questions and how to reach certain target markets, et cetera. Research professionals also have the resources to do things effectively and efficiently. So you're not having, somebody in your organization spinning their wheels, and while it doesn't increase your cost because they might be on salary, for example, they're spending a lot of time trying to do things that can be done really quickly and really efficiently if you use somebody on the outside, because we have the resources to tap into very quickly.
Yes, great points. And I agree with that. I've had clients that said, can we just do the interview part, because we were doing phone interviews, and I rolled over and let that happen a couple of times, and each time it did not work out. And then I want to kick myself because I'm like, I knew better, and I just thought that maybe they could do it. And I would gather that Steve would concur, when we've trained our interviewers, if we're not doing the interviews ourselves, when we train our interviewers, that's an investment of time. And the other thing that a lot of people don't know if they're doing this on their own is you got to pre-test your questionnaire. And when I do things with my people, because we do almost exclusively phone work, is I say, okay, we're going to pre-test this. We role play with each other. We do all of that. And then I also say, now when you practice, read this out loud, because when you read in your head versus when you say it out loud, it's different. And you got to practice saying it out loud. I'm going to put up our contact information here. Well, wait a minute. That didn't happen, did it? Just a second. Let me get that. Darn it. Just a second. Come on, Becky. You can do this. All right. So here's our contact information. Feel free to reach out. Our next time together is going to be Tuesday, back to our Tuesday series at 11 o'clock on August 1st. And please let us know again if you would like to hear some things about voice of the customer, otherwise called VOC, or if you'd like to hear some discussion, some pointers on customer service or customer satisfaction surveys. Otherwise, we will dig into our previously planned topic and talk about how you can do some things yourself and what are the common problems to be on the lookout for. I think that's a wrap, unless you have anything else to say in closing, Steve.
No, I think we've hit the time, so I think that's great. I mean, the only comment I have about how you phrase things is this: yes, you can do things yourself, but should you?
Yeah. Excellent point. So thanks again for joining in. Send us your comments, your thoughts, your suggestions for additional topics, and we'll see you on August 1st. Thanks a lot. Okay, Steve, you still here?